Good morning, good morning, good morning, ladies and Facebook. Well, I think we finally got it right this time, right? With me just moving from Nashville down to Charleston, it has created some major issues with my schedule and what is going on in my head. So I'm finally getting on the right track with it. So glad to have two guests here with me today, because you guys know, after spending this week with me kind of covering the book Wealth Unbroken, that I'm terrible at just talking to myself on here. So I really enjoy having people on here with me. I figured we would close out Friday, Memorial Day weekend, with some guests. So I'm super excited. So I have Madison Harris. She is one of our newer agents. And Madison is, not that we want to share everybody's age, but we're representing the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s here, guys. So this is good overview of each generation. So Madison is originally from the Murfreesboro, Tennessee area, and is down in Charleston as well. And she's working with me to open a new office down here. And then Kristien is my girl back in Murfreesboro. She is running our Murfreesboro office, and I'm super excited to have her on this morning. So, yeah. What do you ladies, do you have any big plans for this weekend before we dive into wealth and money and taxes and all that good stuff?
I have just recently had a baby, so I'm going to be hanging out with a baby who has just learned how to talk, which is just lovely. I have a screaming 3-month-old now, so we're having tons of fun with that. But that's pretty much all of our plans for this weekend so far.
Awesome. What about you, Kristien?
To be honest with you, I work so much that I didn't even realize it was Memorial Day weekend. So now that you told me that, I will be doing yard work.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. I love yard work.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and we went to the beach last weekend down here. It was my first weekend really getting settled in town. We had some friends in, and I can tell you, after the drive in, and there's just a few beaches open at this time. So the traffic, it literally took us, we're 15, 20 minutes away. It literally took us like over an hour and a half to get here. So we will not be doing that this weekend. So anyway, diving right in. So Madison and I have recently read Wealth Unbroken, and Kristien, I know you said you haven't had a chance to dive into that book yet, but it's amazing. And so one of the things that I was going to bring in today, and I thought that what you did yesterday was so relevant. I absolutely loved your example, and I'm going to give you the floor here in just a second to just share that with people, because I think sometimes it's hard for them to grasp what we're talking about when we're talking about the outdated investment strategies, such as, just investing in the market and the 401k. And not that there's a problem with that, and we're definitely not anti any of those investment options. But what we are trying to teach people is that you have to be in a specific position to be able to contribute to those and really make it relevant within your portfolio. Outside of that, we want people to know that there are other options. If you only have $100 or $200 a month, or you're not getting a company match, we want people to know that there are options for them. And many traditional advisors will turn those people away because they don't have enough money to invest. So lead us into the lesson you were sharing yesterday that, made me reach out and say, hey, you got to come on and do live with me tomorrow. The floor is all yours.
Gotcha. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So yesterday, which this is huge. I think you caught me with one of my kids on my lap too. And I'm always thinking about this. Yes. I'm always thinking about these things and talking about these things to my kids, especially because, growing up, I learned those outdated investment strategies. And as I was, coming into the world and, starting my own family, I started using those same investment strategies, and I was getting frustrated. They weren't working. And so what's funny is at a very young age, I realized that there were other things out there. I just didn't know what they were. And I was going to try my best to find them. I was like, there's no way that people are just okay with this, losing half their portfolio within 5 to 10 years of retiring. And I actually had a personal experience with a coworker who lost over $200,000, and he had to tack on an extra 5 years. So I remember having that conversation with him. And in my mind, at the young age of 23, I said, I'm going to find what's out there, what people are doing that I don't know about. There's something I don't know about, and I'm going to find it. So I was always open-minded. I always had my feelers out. I would go to, certain firms that are kind of popular, and I'm like, no, that's still not it. That's still not it. You're still telling me just, everything is put your money in the market. It just had a different name to it, And when I finally found a firm that understood what I was looking for, that's when I was like, bingo, this is exactly, I knew people were doing this. I just didn't know how or how to explain it or even how to get into it. At the time, I was newly divorced, single mom of 2 kids. So, of course, I didn't have a whole bunch of money to throw at something like that either. But he reassured me. He said, look, we can get you started with whatever you have.
Yeah. And most middle America doesn't have. And I mean, look at the crisis that we're in right now with unemployment being as high as it is. People have been displaced from their jobs. They need, they need life insurance outside of what they had at work, because that all went away when they lost those positions.
Right.
And it's just a shame that, most of America is in that same position.
Right. They are. So he got me started on one of these accounts, and that's what I was going over last night. And it's funny because I do these types of demonstrations with my kids like all the time. They're like, I don't know. I just want them to know things that I did not know, and so I'm constantly instilling in them this information. So yesterday I was sitting here with my kids, and I was like, had these 2 cups, and I might have to just pick it up so you guys can see. But there's both of them have lines that say 50,000, 100,000, 250, and then 500. And I'll just keep picking them up so you guys can see. And so I was like, let's do a little demonstration for the people, because a lot of people don't understand that there are protected asset funds that actually protect what you're growing. Because that was the frustration I was having. I was losing my money. I'm like, well, it's great you're matching it, but I'm losing it.
But they think it's so, it's kind of one of those strategies. But, what do you say when it's like, well, it's long-term investment. You just got to buy and hold. You got to stay right where you're at for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So,
so go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, no, I bought and hold all right. And I didn't hold on to a lot. So after 11 years of buying and holding, and I remember presenting that to the guy at the firm, he said, yikes. I said, yeah. I said, if that's what it looks like after 11 years, what's it going to look like in 19 more? This is ridiculous. So I showed them, I was like, look, if I just, let's say that both of these accounts started out with 50,000. And so here is my protected asset fund. See that it says 50,000. And then here's my 401k. It's at 50,000. All right. So let's say it's 2008. No. You know what? Let's do this. Let's say 2002, that last, kind of correction, it's over. This is what we have. And then now between 2002 and 2008, both accounts grow to $100,000. Okay, so both accounts grew to $100,000 in 2008.
And tell us real quick, how does the protected asset strategy grow to $100,000? Because don't those get just a typical, 3, 4%, 6% maybe, or are they tied to the market? Explain that for people.
You're right. So then they are tied to the market, just like your stocks are, just like your 401k. They get the same market returns that you would get with a 401k, even all the way up to 25%. And so, knowing that these protected asset funds grow the same. You get the same high rate of return that you would in a 401k or a 403b or an IRA. But there's a protected mechanism where when the market does go down, your money stays exactly where it was. So right here, if I have $100,000 in this protected asset fund that grows just like my 401k, it's just going to stay 100,000. So I'm going to show you that example here real quick. So we have $100,000 in both a 401k cup and the protected asset fund. But now 2008 happens. And that was horrible. I don't know if y'all remember that. Some people have amnesia. They don't remember losing 57% of their portfolio.
No, so they're going to get it back. They know they're going to get it back. But who knows when? And it's like a scenario I shared from the book the other day. She gives a perfect example of, you have diamonds in your diamond ring, your engagement ring, your wedding set, and you go when you lose 2 of the diamonds and you go replace them. It doesn't mean you didn't lose the first 2. The first 2 diamonds are gone. So this is very similar to that. It's like your money, this philosophy that your money is not gone because it wasn't really ever there to begin with, or you're going to get it back and you never lost it. Bull crap. If you go to take that money out today, it's gone. It is gone. So yeah, good point. Good point. Sorry, I just keep interjecting. It gets me fired up, girl. Fired up.
Me too. So then after 2008 happened, and a lot of people, up to 57% of their portfolio was lost. Now you see here in the 401k cup, I am down to 50,000. But this one, when 2008 hit, I stay at 100,000 because of that protective mechanism on this account. So now what happened between 2008 and 2020? This awesome bull market, and everyone forgot what happened. It's like, I call it financial amnesia. They just forgot. It's like, oh, no. We're good now. So we're good now. And everybody got, all these gains. So I'm going to add the same amount of liquid in both cups. Oh, look at that. You went back up to $100,000. But my protected asset fund, because I never lost any money, is now $200,000. So look at that. You got you got it back. You always do it in my voice. You're going to get it back. Yeah, you got it back. But here's the thing. There's 2 key things you're missing out on. The first thing is you missed out on time. So all that time you took to get back to 100,000 was wasted. You could have been gaining money in something else. And secondly, let's look at it this way. If you lost $40,000 on the front end, but you have an account that doubles, let's say it grows at 10% average, we know that because of the rule of 72, that's doubling that money every 7 years roundabout. So if you went a whole 21 years and you lost that $40,000 in the front end, that $40,000 was actually worth $320,000 if it had compounded every 7 years. So it's not, you just lost $40,000 for 3 years. Nope. You lost $320,000 in 3 years. That's what you did.
Yeah, people don't look at it like that, though. They're like, oh, well, what about fees and stuff like that? Like, there's no fees associated with 401k, right? They just don't tell you what the fees are. They don't have to disclose the fees of the 401k, whereas, our fees are all up front. The taxes are up front. You don't have to worry about taxes going up. I mean, if the taxes go up at 1%, you've saved yourself a major tragedy at retirement just if they go up 1%. So, yeah, I love that. You're getting some hallelujahs for me on that for sure. Madison, what about you? I mean, did you, at your age, did you know any of this stuff or even think about it or even start even comprehending the whole retirement piece?
Really no. And even now, like I'm still learning so many things. That's really why I enjoyed this book so much, because there was just so much information in there that I had no idea about. But I worked for a big corporate company. I'm sure most of you eat at daily, if not weekly, Buffalo Wild Wings. I did manage there for almost 4 years between a couple different stores. great job, and of course, great compensation, and just like everybody else, 401k option. So I did experience that a little early on, and I had no idea what I was doing when I signed all of that stuff, going in as a manager. So that was something that I have really had to look back on and kind of be like, man, I'm still getting stuff in the mail, even though I'm not there anymore. Like, hey, you still have this set up, and I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm even going to do with it at this point. So yeah, it's definitely something that I've got to think about in the long run and figure out what I need to do as far as growing my money and getting it somewhere where it needs to be. So.
Absolutely. So good point. So back to the amnesia, the investing amnesia you're talking about. Back to that and your example, Kristen. I love this. I love this because it gives people something to visualize. It gives them something to say, okay, I get it now. I get that you're not talking about the 40,000 I lost. You're talking about the 40,000 and the ability for that 40,000 to compound over time. And the time is the major key here, that's what they lost. That's what they can't get back.
Right. Exactly. And so, of course, if your average investor talks about loss and, gaining it back, that's the part they don't talk about, is the fact that that time that you had with that lost money could have actually made you money. And so then, of course, with protected asset funds, because you never lose that money or that ability, you don't even have the ability to lose money. You're always gaining anytime the market goes back up. Because let's just face it, usually after a huge correction, we have a huge recovery and you are capturing all that growth every year. Why not capture that growth on way more money? Because of course, with more money, with the 20% hike, you're going to get more money with 20% versus, with the lower amount. It's all numbers, and numbers don't lie. They just don't lie. And so, like you said, you were talking about the tax advantages as well. And I didn't even get into that yesterday because I wanted to take it slow because, it's like, whoa, this is so good. Yes, it is. Not only do I make all the money, I never lose it, but then I don't have to pay taxes on it either. So.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's amazing when you can break it down into
will you mute?
Yeah.
We're having some feedback here. So I think it's great when you can just break it down and people can just comprehend it. They can just bite off a little piece at a time. But there was something in that you said that was key. And of course, it's kind of left me at this point. But about the high, she does mention, I think I remember now, she does mention in this book about the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And that's where we're at now. So it's going to be that type of high market and then that volatility that's going to bring it back down every single time. That's just kind of where we're at. And I love that. So she talks about, just to kind of fill you in a little bit on the tax pieces, Kristen, she talks a little bit about future taxes and future tax increases and talking about it being the single biggest threat to wealth and retirement. And blatantly says this will be the thing that destroys America's retirement dreams is taxes. Because a lot of people think that we're in a very high tax bracket right now, and we're not. Of course, a lot of people also know we're in tax cuts right this minute. Well, not just minute, but up till 2025. And, then those expire, and that saved us a couple of percent here and there in that tax bracket. But people don't realize that the highest taxes were, in the 90%, it was like 94%. And they forget that. And they forget about Ronald Reagan talking about how he wouldn't even, do acting jobs per se back in his day that put him over, making $250,000 a year because it put him in a different tax bracket. He made no money off of it. It made no sense to do it. So I love that piece. So why do you think people, just from you guys, why do you think people do it? Do you think it's like an instant gratification thing on, hey, I feel like I'm getting something for this tax deferred accounts that I'm doing. And what do you say to people, Kristen, when they throw out the Roth IRA? Because we know that's a great product. We love it as well. But what do you say back to those people when they throw that out?
So one of the first things I've noticed is a lack of financial education. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why, because people just don't know what's out there. They know what's put in front of them, or what, companies or someone at your, average, regular, everyday financial firm tells you. But because you don't know other options are available, you just go with what you think the best option is. So of course, if someone reaches for a Roth IRA, which they're not bad, but when you look at how a retirement portfolio should be allocated and allocated properly, that part of your portfolio, the variable side, because we know Roth IRAs are tied to the market, it should not take over the majority of your portfolio. So that should be, I always tell people it's the icing on the cake. So if you do get to the end and you grow a bunch of money in your Roth IRA and the market did okay and it didn't do you too dirty, now you have some more money that is, in a tax advantaged account that you can also add to your retirement. So it should be looked at more like a supplement and not like, the full meal, the protein of what you're supposed to be putting on your plate. And so that's how I think it's mostly education. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people don't realize once you make so much money that those, that's kind of invalid anyway, an invalid product if you're not using it the proper way. Madison, did you have something to add?
Well, I was just going to say, Kristen, I love how you said that because, obviously I'm in the same boat and still learning so many things, but I keep going back in my head every time you guys say something to this example I saw. It was probably a few years ago on Facebook, and your little cups reminded me of it too. But it was a professor out of college. He had this huge jar. And he started putting, I think at the very beginning, he started putting like ping pong balls in it. And to some people, he filled it to the top and he was like, so how many of you think this jar is full? And, there was a few people there raised their hand. Yeah, it's full of ping pong balls. Like, what else could you possibly do? Well, then after that, he started putting like beads or jelly beans or something small in there. And, those balls, where those little gaps were, those little pieces started filling in. And then he's like, okay, how many people think it's full now? Of course, a couple more people raise their hand. Yeah, it might be full. Okay, well, then here he goes. He pours some water in it, fills it up, and there's still, even those things start floating, there's still even some space in there at that point. So it just kind of kept going on to where he finally, I think he eventually put like sand or something in it, something to really pack all that stuff in there. And then finally he was like, okay, well, now it's full. But how many times did he have to add things to it and keep going back and saying, okay, you still have room for options? So that's kind of what's going through my head right now. And I'm just like, okay, where most people think they have to stop at, the 401k, or then they inherit a Roth or something. And, there's just so many things out there and you just don't realize it until you start packing all that sand in there, So that's what I've been thinking about through this whole process, talking to you guys. I'm just like, wow, I'm like referring back to a jar full of ping pong balls, but it just makes you realize everything that, you have options for.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good example because it does. You're exactly right. And I always love it when, I'll make a post every once in a while. And of course it's to trigger that thought process and to trigger the conversation about it. But a lot of times I'll have somebody who has been a solid investor or who has been investing in a 401k for many, many years, and they have a diverse portfolio. Maybe they invest in properties and real estate as well. Maybe they own their own business, so they have tons of deductions and write-offs. And those people seem to always chime in and think that I'm anti whatever it is that I'm posting. It's not that. It's that we are really talking to people that do not have that foundation and do not have that education. And it's not bad. We're not talking about people here that are uneducated. We're talking about people, I was raised in a true middle income family. My dad was, ran for political office. He, was sheriff, was commissioner of safety for the state of Tennessee for many years. Those are things that, you come from, an educated family. And of course I had two dads too. So I had double the smarts there. Right. So, and then biological father, I mean, he was, great in business and, was an operator for a company for many, many years and then retired, in a fairly early age. So I came from an educated family. My mom worked, my dad worked, I came home by myself. That's what we did. And I still didn't know this stuff, guys. This isn't talking to people. When we say uneducated in this, it's not that people don't have this information in front of them and can't get their hands on it. It's that it's typically always been, the wealthy have been privy to it because they can afford to pay somebody to teach them and guide them. And everybody else is just left out of that equation. So we're here to change that. We're on a mission to make sure that every single person that is in front of us has the same education in these topics and these options as I think we lost Kristen, as anybody else does that the wealthy do, right? So we want to make sure we're telling everybody that. It's so important. Okay, I think, yeah. Okay, we got her back.
Yes, and that's so right. And it's not so much that, oh, you don't know, because I didn't know. But this is not education that they're teaching in schools. They'll teach you they don't even teach you how to write a check anymore, honestly. But they'll teach you that this is the bank. That's it. And put money in bank. But they don't explain anything else after that. And so, of course, when you start a job, pretty much the only retirement option they give you is the one that benefits them. Here, sign these papers for the 401k so that when we match your dollars, we get a tax write-off. And so that's why the education is a huge gap, because no one's teaching the other stuff. And I always kind of joke, not joke, but I really do feel like there's, money makes the world go round. So of course there's things that they don't tell you because it wouldn't benefit them. They wouldn't be making money off it. Wall Street wouldn't be making the money they did if they didn't have apps being thrown out there like Robinhood and Acorns, where people are like, ooh, I can invest in stock now, but I know nothing about it, and they're like, yeah, do it. So now they've brought it to your phone where you can do it. And they know that, the elusiveness of the market is just like, oh, I can make a lot of money. And that's all people are thinking, but they're not thinking about, do I have this foundation before I throw all this money in here? Can I do this and still have money left over to X, Y, and Z? It's just, it's not, the education is just not put out there like other things are. And that's what we do. Our firm does that, a lot of education.
I relate it to a gambler, somebody who has a problem with gambling. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the black duck tables in Vegas just like anybody else does, and some slot machines. Oh, my business partner's waking up. But it's the gambler that sits at the table. And, somebody told us not too long ago, because Kristen and I had an opportunity to go to Vegas last year with our company. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we, lost the ability to be able to do that this year. However, I was going to try to switch that here, but, no, it still has Madison in there. Okay, well, here, we're just bigger. Our faces are showing now. So Chris and I had an opportunity to go to Vegas last year, and something that somebody told me that just really triggered this thought for me was, if you are looking for some good stuff, go visit pawn shops on the Strip in Vegas when you're there, because people will lose all their money. And then not only lose all their money, but they will also go start pawning cars and watches and jewelry and clothes, because then they got to get home. And then sometimes they even lose those items as well. So that's kind of what I'm relating to this here. It's like, okay, I lose, but I'm going to buy some more while it's low, because then it's going to go high. But look at all that money you've thrown away. So unless you have a diverse portfolio and you have I love how you said that, you have a very sound foundation, don't put some of those things on top of that if you don't know what you're doing. That's key. So thank you, ladies, so much. Kristen, anything else to add before we go?
Other than that, and you touched on taxes, I just think people need to start really being aware of the fact that things aren't the same like they used to be for your parents and your grandparents. Things are changing. And if you don't, get on the boat, you're going to get left. So now is the time, not 2 weeks from now, not next month, not next year, now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good points. Thank you for sharing your demonstration. I love it. I think it was very clear for people to understand. We're going to share this in a ton of groups today so that maybe we can reach somebody who's like, aha, I get it. And Madison, anything to add before we go?
I don't think so. I enjoyed sitting in with you ladies and look forward to learning some more too. So I'm very excited.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Guys, I know we changed the time this morning, so we didn't have quite as many viewers on that would have probably been able to make it this morning. However, I know many of you will watch the replay. Please, if I can talk, please type into the comments that you've watched the replay so we'll know if you were live with us or if you watched it later. Also, any questions you have, if you want to reach out to one of the ladies, or myself, type that in the comments and I will get you connected. And let's just go out and enjoy celebrating, Memorial Weekend with our families. Be safe. And we will do another one of these very soon. I enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Melissa.